All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to completely reframe how we think about money. Instead of looking at it as this mathematical burden or something we constantly have to stress over, we're going to treat it as a highly practical tool, a tool for buying your personal freedom. We're drawing on some absolutely incredible insights today to show you exactly how to reshape your financial reality.
So here's our blueprint for today. We'll hit the freedom number, mastering your money defense, the power of compounding, tax hacks and assets, and finally, the psychology of wealth.
Okay, part one, the freedom number and how we are completely redefining retirement.
To kick things off, we really need to completely toss out that traditional idea of working 40 long years just to eventually retire. Instead, I want you to ask yourself this one absolutely crucial question. What is your freedom number? Because discovering this specific concrete target, it can literally shift your timeline from decades down to just a few short years. It's the ultimate perspective shift, and honestly, it changes everything about how you plan your life.
Basically, the point here is that if you can drastically lower your basic living expenses, your housing, food, transportation, and build scalable income streams to cover them, you achieve freedom. You don't necessarily need a massive $2 million nest egg if your baseline lifestyle is just fully funded by semi-passive cash flow. It's a game changer.
And this really highlights the core difference. Driven people rarely want to stop working entirely, right? They simply want the freedom to choose exactly how they spend their time, whether that's starting a passion business, traveling, or just spending more time with family. Your freedom number buys you choices, not just a permanent vacation.
Moving on to part two, mastering your money defense and protecting your value.
Look, if you have debt, it's an emergency. But here's the thing, mathematically optimizing your debt payoff isn't always the best human strategy. Actually, scratch that, it almost never is. The debt snowball method can be incredibly effective because securing those small psychological wins early on helps maintain the motivation you desperately need for the marathon of personal finance. You gotta feel that momentum to keep going. Now, let's break down real return. We hear all the time about getting an 8% return in the market, but honestly, that can be a bit of an illusion. Leaving money in a shoebox under your bed or miscalculating your investments often results in a massive loss of purchasing power due to the quiet, hidden erosion of inflation, taxes, and fees. Your actual, real-world buying power is only that real return at the very bottom.
We also really need to understand the fundamental difference in interest. It can be this slow burn that turns small mistakes into full-blown financial fires when you're in debt, but if you're investing, compound interest is like a powerful, unpaid employee working around the clock for you. It is literally your money duplicating itself.
Which leads us perfectly into part three, the power of compounding and growing your wealth.
Take a look at the future value of an annuity. It mathematically proves how regular, disciplined investments, like just putting away $2,000 annually for 40 years, tend to absolutely explode in value over a long horizon. There's no magic here, guys. It's just math plus consistency. Think of compounding exactly like planting a tree. The early years will really test your patience. You water it, you watch it, and it feels like absolutely nothing is happening. But the later years historically yield massive, effortless growth. You just have to survive those boring early years to eventually get the deep shade. And to really highlight this, consider this staggering fact. Roughly 99% of Warren Buffett's immense multi-billion-dollar wealth was accumulated after his 60th birthday. I mean, wow. This brilliantly proves that time, not just initial capital, is the true secret ingredient to compounding. He simply let the engine run longer than anyone else. Even a simple one-time lump sum investment perfectly demonstrates how capital appreciates when given time and a reasonable rate of return. Seriously, every single dollar you invest today has an outsized future version of itself just waiting to grow.
All right, moving to part four, tax hacks and assets, optimizing your offense.
So, you generally have two complementary paths here. First, the passive, slow lane of index funds, like investing in the S&P 500, which is highly reliable over decades. Second, the active, fast lane of increasing your personal value, gaining high-income skills, and building scalable business assets where your earning potential is totally uncapped. Doing both, that's the ultimate hack.
Now, automating your finances is absolute crucial here. Utilizing a simple framework like the 75-15-10 rule can remove all the friction and willpower usually required to consistently invest. You really don't want to rely on motivation to invest. You want your systems to execute it automatically before you even see the money.
And to supercharge that 15% investment piece, we highly recommend utilizing government-approved tax-advantaged accounts. Whether it's a Roth IRA in the US or a stocks and shares ISA in the UK, these accounts legally shield your compounding growth from the massive drag of capital gains taxes. It's literally the difference between retiring comfortably and retiring incredibly wealthy. Finally, Part 5, the psychology of wealth beyond the numbers.
Author Morgan Housel warns of this fascinating concept called frugality inertia. It reminds us that if you literally forget how to spend the money you've worked so hard to save, just because your entire identity is wrapped up in being a saver, well, then money has stopped being a tool. It's become your master.
And this brings us to what I think is the ultimate financial hack. If you can somehow manage to keep your desires and expectations low, you can feel wealthy almost immediately. Because if your income goes up, but your expectations go up even faster, you will literally never feel like you have enough. Contentment, for sure, is the truest form of wealth.
We have to balance saving for tomorrow with actually living today, always aiming to minimize future regret. Think about it. A father who skips every family vacation just to save a few bucks might end up rich, but his kids are only going to remember the trips they never took. Always remember that shared experiences and memories, they compound in value over time too.
When you see someone out there buying a luxury car they clearly can't afford, just remember that status games are totally unwinnable. Usually, they're just trying to heal a psychological wound, or they desperately need to be seen. Upgrading your lifestyle just to impress people in a parking lot? That is a fast track to remaining broke. Ultimately, true wealth is really about quiet compounding and true independence. So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative question. Whose life are you really funding today? Are you just buying things to impress strangers? Or what steps will you take right now to buy back your personal freedom? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we keep breaking down the ideas that matter.